The Raptors fall to the Philadelphia 76ers, 135-120. Welcome to Raptors Tonight, live from Real Sports. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Jack Armstrong, Leo Rautins, Sherman Hamilton, and a surprise, well, he's not really a surprise guest. We've been trying to get you on for a while. Good timing now.
This is surprise you said yes to you.
Please welcome the assistant GM of the Toronto Raptors, Dan Tolzman. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
And you're using the mic. Yeah, I like that.
Trying to remember to.
Dan, let's get right into it. March Madness. I don't have a bracket. But these guys all do. No, I don't think they do either. Anything surprise you? How has it been so far for you?
My bracket is perfect so far. No, it's
so
all.
You didn't fill it out. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only people that win those colors, nicknames, and who knows what else.
Yeah.
You know?
Even then, I don't think they can get them right. It's wild. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I mean, everyone always thinks that, you know, the scouts were out there, we should know this, we're going to win every pool, and it's so wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you see these teams too much, and you think you might have a feel for a team, and they completely change in the tournament, and it's just so much momentum is the main, the main
NC
thing.
State.
So then how much stock do you put into players at that stage of their career, playing in the tournament? Someone has a bad game, is that like, oh, that was a bad game? I mean, you look at the body of work, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's way more the season as a whole. However, there's always a lot of pressure on the tournament games. There's the moment, the crowd, all the things that come into it. You would like to see players perform in those moments. If they don't, it's not like it's a stamp on the type of player they are. But if the players that do excel in those moments, it is a little bit of like, oh, okay, they come up in those moments and they don't run away from them.
Right.
Well, you look at that, a lot of it comes down, I think, with fans that, as you know, don't tune into the college games and then watch during the tournament. A lot of times that just forms their opinion because they don't know anything else. It's that recency bias. So kind of working against that, you got to look at the totality of it. And how much of it, percentage would it be when you evaluate a guy in games versus maybe you get an opportunity to look behind the curtain, go to watch practices as well, and really watch the interaction and the coachability and the work ethic? What percentage of that, there's a lot of elements, but what percentage does that play in?
It's definitely a part. I think it's, I don't know if it'd be hard to put percentages or anything like that, but it's, there's more to it than just the game. And honestly, like, there's so much like physicality and so many different things that go into what will help them transition to the NBA beyond just what they're doing on the court. And like you said, some of that might be not only, you know, how they look in practice, but, you know, are they the last player rolling into practice? Mm-hmm. Are they coming in early? Are all the insight from the coaches that, like, this is a guy that lives in the gym versus, oh, they're a little immature, like all those sorts of the insight that you can gain above and beyond what you're seeing in an actual game. It's a big part of it. I mean, we do a lot of that, background work leading into the draft. I mean, we do a lot of it during the season on a number of guys, and then once we know where we're picking and as we kind of start zeroing in on some guys in a certain range, we dig even deeper in on that and get as many resources as we can get in terms of those sorts of insights on them.
Dan, if I could ask you a question. So obviously, and I'm asking this question not from a Raptors perspective, but just as a general perspective, that you got Zach Edey's tearing up the tournament, right, playing great basketball. I heard a scout, and the game has changed, especially for a big guy, and I heard one scout say that he looks at Edey like Boban. And we know Boban, like if you see Boban in his international environment, he's great skills, right? Maybe much more skilled in a lot of ways than Edey, a different type of body. But Boban is just, sometimes you see him play 6 minutes, you don't see him play at all. You see him play great against the team for that 6 minutes, but that's it. And he said he sees Edey being kind of like that. Do you see anything like that? And again, I'm not from a Raptors perspective, but just in general.
I mean, I'd rather not get into too much on the players.
Okay.
Directly,
Fair.
just because these are guys that we're still evaluating, and I mean, would you say there's a wide range of opinions on not only him but a lot of the players in this draft, and it's made this a very interesting draft to prepare for, because usually you have an idea of where most players are going to fall within a range.
Right.
There is a lot of, and he's not the only one. There's some guys that you'll hear top 10 to, then you might ask another scout and they'll be like, man, I don't know if I'd take him in the top 40.
Right.
And it's, I mean, so much of the way the NBA has gone, there are players that they might not fit into what they think the league is going, but it seems like it's always cyclical, and like things change, and if there's someone that can be as dominant doing whatever the skill is, whether it's in the post, whether it's shooting, whatever, it does seem like the league starts to follow suit. And if you kind of have to kind of go with the flow, and if that means zigging and zagging a little early or something, then I think you just kind of have to go with your gut. And that's, again, like there could be a player that gets taken in the top 15 that the rest of the league might be like, man, what are these guys doing? And then 5 years from now, they'll be like, oh, wow, like that, we should have been doing that too. So it's really hard to tell. A player like Zach, that how it's going to translate to this right now, but who knows what the NBA could look like in a couple of years anyway. So you have to kind of take all of that into account.
Could I just say one thing, because it's going to happen. The new TV deal is going to get done, and then we're going to add 2 teams. So there's going to be another 30 players in the league at least, and the talent dispersal gets watered down that much more. So it's also part of the projection, I'm sure, when you sit around, you go, I'm not only putting my roster together for this year, but down the road, and the league's going to look a little different a few years down the road when actually maybe that guy is ready to hit. Is that part of it?
We as a front office always try to make our decisions with the down the road kind of in mind. We certainly never make draft picks based on the current depth chart on your current roster, because things change in a blink, and all of a sudden the depth is totally different than what you would plan for. So we always try to just plan for, okay, what can this player turn into with the right resources around them, the right players that they're playing off of in 3-4 years when they're kind of going through their initial contract and coming out of the next. Like, hopefully you've got them on the right trajectory to keep building with your roster, especially where we're at now with a very young core. Getting the guys that can line up with our current group and keep growing with them is going to be so key. And how the landscape of the league turns out to be in the next 4 or 5 years, who really knows? We don't even, it's hard to tell which primary contenders are still going to be those contenders in 5 years from now. And so it's like, where can we as an organization line ourselves up to be, kind of jumping off at the right time is kind of the way that we approach things.
Dan, if we can get a bit more Raptors specific now, when you talk about this team and obviously pieces are out of the lineup, and you're getting a real good chance to evaluate some talent on your roster, some young talent. How much do you gauge the situations they're in based on their production? Because, their role might not be where it is based on who's out of the lineup right now. But how much do you take from, what you're seeing from them in positions that they're not usually probably going to be in?
Yeah, I think it's probably less about the production itself. It's like, someone has to score, someone has to put up these numbers, but there is a moment of how do they respond to the aggressiveness of the defense, and the players that they're going against are full-time players. A lot of times they're regular starters, and these are guys that you aren't normally comparing them, eye to eye with that level of player. So it's a really good feel for, man, if you see a guy that can get to the cup against this level of defense, like, okay, like maybe that's something to build on, or guys that can hit their shots, against bigger wings that maybe in the G League we aren't used to seeing that. It's a nice opportunity just to see guys, and just a little bit different of get a little bit more opportunity, and what few flashes they might have in a setting like this. It's like it's something to build on for the summer and kind of lean into with their development program. And I would say it's way less to do with like box score stats as much as it is like it's good film work. I mean, them and their personal coaches are working a lot on rewatching all of the minutes and seeing, where they may have made a mistake. Because a lot of times some of these guys, this situation, the play that if they had, it led to a turnover, that might have been their first opportunity as an NBA player to like have that situation happen. And so it's a learning experience. Right. Hopefully the next time that setting comes up, they'll have a little bit different of a response. And those are the things that we try to learn from. If they keep doing the same thing over and over incorrectly, it's like you learn from that too as a player. And maybe some of these guys don't have what it takes. And you can really learn positives and negatives from these sorts of situations.
Dan, you watch a lot of basketball, and by a lot, I mean a lot, right? What do you make of this notion that kind of gets floated around this time of year, where someone will say, oh, this college team would beat an NBA team or make the play-in?
Ridiculous. I'll just say ridiculous.
Respond to that.
But why does that even come up? Why does that?
People don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So can you just explain
it's like,
how ridiculous that is to?
I don't even know if does the term like apples to oranges qualify in this, because it's like college basketball and NBA G League basketball. It's completely different animals. It's like the defense. It's like you have players that just like stand in the lane playing defense. It's like that doesn't exist in the NBA. Like you can't just sit there and play a traditional zone. It's like if they actually had to play NBA style with the further out 3-point line, with everything that's, if it's the same, it wouldn't even be close.
They wouldn't get there. They wouldn't get.
Having said that, you can't deny, like when you see a good team and they're dominating like UConn's been doing, when you see that, and it's like it's beautiful basketball in the way that they've been able to just like compete and be aggressive and just take over games like by just like flipping a switch. I mean, it's I like to more compare of like where does a team like that compare to some of the greatest teams of all time in college in the same sort of game. And like if they were to face the Florida way back when and they were repeating, like how would those teams stack up? And then from there, as always, there's NBA players in these games, and you can look back at all the tournament and how some of the NBA players we know that have had so much success as a pro, like what they were as a college player, and then you kind of, it's easier to compare those sorts of things as opposed to like, oh, you put this team in the NBA, they could win some games. It's like, maybe, but I doubt it.
In the words of our colleague, Paul Jones, he says, basketball is like church. Many attend, few understand. To your point about that question, that's where that question's coming from. Leo made an interesting point. We were working together on the NCAA tournament the other day about, how the name, image, likeness scenario is really impacting college basketball. It's getting a little older. And now some guys are going, I'll stay another year. How is that impacting your scouting, in terms of the decision? Do you get a lot of intel into that in terms of saying, hey, this guy might stay? Because that impacts your board.
I definitely think there's less of a guarantee that any young player that's kind of having some success is for sure going to come out, because that financial drive it's less now, because they can probably make maybe not at the same level as they can in the NBA, but enough to make it worthwhile to stay a little bit longer and get better and then maybe move up the board. I mean, usually when a player is being rumored at a certain tier in the NBA draft boards, it's like that's a lot of potential money to leave on the table and go back to school, because injuries happen and then who knows what's going to happen. But, I mean, having said that, I think that probably more than anything, the NIL is really impacting like the mid-major basketball. It's like these guys that usually we would go and scout all, the smaller conferences, because there's guys that pop and you try to get an eye for them if maybe it's like a potential second round guys or something in there. Now a lot of those guys are just instantly, rather than testing the waters in the draft and maybe going as a junior or a senior. Now with the 5th year, it's really hurt too. But sometimes those guys would go in, take a chance. Now it's like they're just putting their name in their portal, and they're getting, a decent amount of money, like right off the bat, to go to a major conference, and they're not even flirting with the NBA anymore. So the mid-major guys are like kind of using NIL as like just like a one step up before even thinking about the draft, whereas in the past they would spend the first couple months after the season of maybe, seeing what's out there in the NBA, and then sometimes you would find some guys that are kind of hidden from scouting them and doing the job well, to where now it's they're jumping in the portal and quickly getting snatched up by some of the best schools. And that's like mid-major basketball, I think more than anything, has probably taken the biggest hit from NIL.
Do you think there's less pressure now? Or, like the NBA is kind of like nobody kind of goes out of the box. Everybody kind of stays in the box a little bit. But now, and before, everybody takes that projected player. Now there's less pressure to take the older guy. Because before, the guy's been there too long. Now you start looking at his weaknesses instead of his strengths. But now it's more balanced. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree that it might just be the success of some of these guys coming in as seniors, older juniors, seniors, that from day one they can actually contribute.
Yeah.
And there's been a little bit more of that success that it's teams are getting less thrown off by just take the projected guy versus the older player. And it's like, hey, like this guy can actually maybe come in and help us right away. I don't know, there's definitely I wouldn't say the draft is getting older, but it's the stigma around age has kind of lessened to where some of these older guys they're usually still always getting drafted. They're moving further up the boards and they're being taken, more, or they're being looked at stronger in the first round than they maybe in the last.
It seemed like in the past, a lot of guys, just because they stayed a year or two, they were scrutinized so much they fell. Whereas now they're being more seen as, like you said, instant contributors versus potential, right?
Yeah.
I'll get you out on this. You've been awesome. It's great insight. Did you see, speaking of scouting, did you watch the media basketball game? Were you?
I saw a couple highlights.
Were you aware of what happened in that game? Because I had 12 in the first half. And so,
from what I heard, it was not a sanctioned scouting event for us.
Okay.
So
okay.
I wasn't allowed to be there.
Randy does have eligibility remaining.
But the funny thing is, I actually asked JQ if I could go and then write articles on you guys.
See, there you go.
Oh, okay.
That's
a good action shot right
I'm
there.
off the ground about 6. Look at that defensive stance. So you can probably look at
Was
that.
that right before
and then I don't know
beat you?
That's you falling down to committing a turnover.
I don't know what's happening
dribbling
there.
off your
crying?
foot.
Were you
Is that what
crying
that was?
I think he tripped over the sideline. Okay.
It was like Tom Hanks, and that was Wilson.
But did you win? Did your
did
team
win,
Okay,
yeah.
that's
Well, he didn't win the MVP.
No.
Gavin
That's-
Berry, who's our associate
Yes.
producer in the television truck.
Well,
I heard it wasn't even really close.
he
is
was
what
a
I was
big-time collegiate player.
I deferred. I was
Oh.
deferring a lot, because of the draft. Like, I already know where I'm going. I want to make sure that
But
my
you
guy
did have 12 points.
12 in
We-
the first
We heard
half.
that, yeah.
First half.
First half, yeah.
Sherman, you heard
What'd
that.
you have in the
right?
second half?
I got 0.
You ran out of gas in the second half?
That court's big, man.
It's big. This isn't a college court.
No,
man.
I know. It's different. Feels different.
I just hope you had fun. There was no major injuries.
Nobody got hurt.
got hurt.
It was about 10 days
Just
ago,
his ego got hurt.
and I'm still I'm just like almost 100% is 10 days ago. So that's how things are right now.
Are you ready for a 10-day?
Yeah, I need a 10-day. I need that cash.
Where? Dominican or where?
Punta Cana. Yeah.
Bolivia. I think they're looking for you in Bolivia right now.
Please give a hand for
For different
Assistant GM
reasons, Jack.
Dan
That's for
Tolzman.
different reasons.
I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Dan.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Dan.
Don't forget, you can take your commemorative mug with you. Oh, yeah?
Commemorative mug, I like it.
Commemorative mug for you. Thanks, Dan. Whenever you're
Speechless. You're speechless now.
Thank you, Dan.
come back anytime. We got like
We only got a few games
Spent
left.
so
Next
much-
year.
3 shows left.
Next year.
You spend so much time talking about yourself playing, you're speechless right now.
Yeah.
Nothing else to say.
I'll get you. Yeah.
Randy, why don't we talk?
There's a
Randy, why don't we talk about the Raptors instead of
There's a dunk video in there too from my college days, so we could show
of
that.
you getting dunked on?
No, we got it somewhere. Yeah, no. Next time. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
See you, Dan. Thanks.
All right, enough of you, Randy. What are we talking about?
That was pathetic pandering right there.
Well, you know what? You
horrible.
got to shoot your shot when the draft's around the corner. You want to make some.
Well,
Well, you shot enough bricks.
Shot
you
enough.
know what? Deal with reality
Wow.
on reality's terms. It ain't
that
happening,
shameful?
okay?
Shameless.
Let's talk encouraging signs from the game tonight that you saw from the Raptors. Anything stand out to you? I mean, we're getting down to it now. You're seeing a group of guys that are starting to. They're starting the game a lot together.
Well, a
There's
few
some
things.
cohesion
Kelly
there.
Olynyk's playmaking is excellent.
Yep.
Bruce Brown might have played his most well-rounded game tonight for the Raptors. I thought Grady Dick, once again, shown a lot. Wara played well off the bench. He's got to get a little more efficient, but he's got potential.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a fourth-year guy, so you know. Is he a rotation guy or is he like, you know, last few guys on your team? But he has some skill. But, you know, you saw, I thought they really fought hard tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia just shot lights out. I mean, it was amazing the performance they put on.
Sherm, what did you see out there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same. I think Simons is doing a good job as well. I
like
think
him.
he's playing hard. He's
Quick.
engaged.
Yeah.
He's going after it.
Got a
But
great name, Kobe,
It's a great
Jordan.
Great.
Right?
I will say this,
Very
though.
good
I think we got to give Darko a lot of credit. These guys are playing hard. And I've said this before, in situations like this, we've all seen teams just kind of float away and disappear. And especially on the defensive side, this team competes. And that's a testament to Darko coaching these guys the right way and them buying into what he's selling. So I tip my hat to them.
And their interactions on the floor are positive. A lot of times you see teams in this situation, a lot of negative interaction, a lot of it. You know,
I love seeing Scotty Barnes out there every game, standing up, cheering, all that kind of stuff. You know,
you just like the leather.
I like the leather. We talked about that. All right, let's pause it there for now and welcome in our fan of the night. Give a round of applause for Jordy Bailey. Come on in, Jordy.
All right, Jordy.
Yes, sir. We went from assistant GM to Jordy Bailey. It's very,
Well, he's a big timer.
yeah, you can tell. He works out. He works out. Jack Armstrong, Leo Rautins, Sherman Hamilton. What's up? What's up?
Jack, thanks for having me on.
Do you have a question?
I do
Comment?
actually.
Yeah.
Little bit of a question. Might not be the easiest answer, but I'd appreciate the try. Obviously, Raptors are in a rebuilding phase. Not going to make the playoffs. How is it commenting for these guys right now? How are you guys feeling?
That's a great question.
It's interesting. We've all had a lot of experience and a lot of years under our belt of calling games, doing studio shows as well. And look, I, from my perspective, and I think Leo and Sherm will be in that same realm, I love the game of basketball. I come from a place of positivity and joy. I celebrate the game, and there's always something to celebrate. Sometimes it's the team that you're calling the game for. Other times,
Easter service right now. I like
No,
that.
no,
I like
no,
the
but-
choice of words. That's good.
but other times it might be the team you're playing against. I think it's our job in what we do to not only be ambassadors on behalf of the Toronto Raptors. Our job is to be ambassadors on behalf of the NBA and the growth of basketball here in Canada. And I think that is because there's always somebody watching that isn't a Raptor fan that wants you to talk about the NBA and the game. So to me, I think we come from a good place and you try to stay in that good place. Are there moments you got to call it and say, hey, this ain't good enough? This is unacceptable? Yes. Because if you don't, you're a shill. So you have credibility that you have to have as well.
Of course.
On the other hand, you try to come from a place of celebration and positivity because these guys are trying.
So I've been here since day one.
Yeah.
So we got expansion basketball. You know you're going to get rocked tonight. You just know it's there's a perspective at that moment. You know what your team is. You know what's going to happen. So you can talk about how bad it is. You can talk about the game, and you can talk about the development. So now you're in a situation where we went from being a championship team to now you're in development again. So how you view the game is from the building development standpoint, right? You can't approach it like you're a championship team playing bad. That's not what's happening. So it's always the bigger picture perspective that you got to apply to today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been through some tough seasons with this team before they won, and we were doing an hour post-game show.
Yeah,
after
Game
the
5,
losing
Sherman. I remember those nights.
They were tough.
No
This
food.
doesn't, yeah, no food.
No food.
This doesn't
No
feel
Randy.
like that
Oh,
at all.
Randy. Yeah.
You can see where this team can be. So it's you know, it's tough to see the team lose, but there's an understanding of how things can change quickly, as we saw. And for us as broadcasters, I feel like we're still telling stories. We're still telling everybody what's happening and how it's happening. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, you can see progress being made, even when the score doesn't say that and the win-loss total doesn't show that. So it's not easy all the time, but you definitely know there's something
I
there.
want to make one point that's really important. And I grew up, I'm a huge baseball fan. And I think broadcasters are the voice of a team. If you grew up in Los Angeles, you grew up listening to Vince Scully, grandparent, parent, child. You know, same, you know, I grew up in New York, Marv Albert, generational. And, you know, we're blessed, all three of us, to have been here for quite a while calling games. And, you know, so players come and go, coaches come and go, executives come and go, support staff. And you are kind of that connection, you're that conduit to the fan, and generational type thing. And there's an importance to what we do as well, and there's a responsibility to what we do. And I think we all really pride ourselves in taking that seriously, because people connect through the team, through us. Because if you look at this roster, the turnover they've had this year, and you look at the coach that's coaching Philadelphia tonight and their whole staff and the whole new staff, their connection to the team a lot of times is through our voices. So it's a big responsibility that I know we all take very seriously and pride ourselves in.
Do you want to spin for a prize and shoot for said prize?
Sure, why not?
Why not? Let's do
Just
it.
so you know,
Let's
it's not
do
a
it.
chance that
Come
no,
on.
you get tickets.
That's not
Honestly,
true.
I've seen this
That's
show
not
before
true.
and I've heard that.
Yeah. Come on.
But I want to make sure you know.
He's the one guy that watches the show.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
No.
He's
We
got,
have more than one,
we're
Randy.
going to do life advice and relationship advice with Jack Armstrong coming up after the spin.
Really?
So, yeah.
Me? I don't know if you want
Yeah.
it from me.
Give it a spin.
Yeah.
Give it a spin. What do
All
you,
right, here
what
we
do you
go.
want? Actually, I'm not going to lie to you. There's a few things on there that are not at the table because I didn't refill it.
See, I told you, no
Scarf.
chance.
You don't
Scarf.
want a scarf.
I don't want a scarf.
No, dude.
You don't want a scarf because the weather's warming up. Spring's here. Tomorrow's April 1st.
Yeah, you don't want
You
a
won't
scarf.
need a scarf for the next 6 months.
Toque. Oh, backpack.
Backpack.
That's
We can
not
always
there
use a
either.
backpack.
Well, okay, but what's in the backpack? Got to put something in the
I gave that away
backpack.
last show. I gave that away last
I saw
show.
this on the show before.
Okay, what do you want? Give it another
give me one
spin.
more.
Everything
Yeah,
must
give it
go.
one.
We only have 3 home games
I'll get
left.
you. I'll get you a backpack.
You can't put all that stuff in your closet, Randy.
We're doing a clearance
Hoodie.
sale here.
Yes, you got a hoodie. Yeah,
All
but
right.
you got to
Okay,
make the shot first.
Randy. Hoodie in the backpack.
There's no backpack. I didn't replenish it today.
Wow.
I'll give you a
Wow.
scarf too.
Everything's in
Hey!
your
Whoa.
basement.
All right.
Oh, hey now.
You got another chance here.
Just a little
He
outside.
gets as many from as he wants.
Oh.
Pay attention, host. You're going to get it no matter what. There's no pressure.
Grab it. There it
We
comes.
take as long
This
as
is the
possible.
one. This is the one. This is the one.
We got it.
His arms are too big.
There
Hey! All right, so do you have a shout out?
we go.
Is that me? Do you have a shout out to anybody
Look at the
watching
car.
at home?
Sure. Shout out to Randy over here
Oh,
from
my
my
God.
experience.
Your girlfriend Elaine?
And Elaine over there.
you go.
Look at her. She's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Jordy.
Yeah, thank
All right,
you.
she's got it, buddy.
Woo! See you, buddy. All right, let's end it.
All right, Jordy.
Let's end it there. Next game for the Raptors, Tuesday versus the Lakers.
Is that it? That's
Tip
how
off.
we're finishing?
You want to do life advice?
No life.
What happened to the backpack?
Tip off at 7 p.m.
I want to know what happened to the backpack.
After the game, come on, be real
the
sports, be a
tickets.
part of the show.
See ya.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next
7
time.
o'clock start.